Hello, welcome back if you're returning to my channel.
I am, Ed. I had to return. I couldn't stay away. You got interesting vibes. You got a downright magnetic personality. Thanks for putting out another video, by the way. You're saving my life here, man. I didn't know what I was going to do this week, and I'm so far behind, it's got me all stressed out. And it's hard to feel inspired when you're under pressure. So that was rough, but then this video came out, and actually I think it's going to do the trick. Now, of course, what I'd really like to be doing, what I've felt inspiration to do for a while now, is review Armando Calvo's third book, God Still Is, which was supposed to be released on October 30th, but as of recording this video, unfortunately that has not been released, and the announcement video is deleted. So is that going to happen? If it does, will it be this year? Do we have to wait another year? I hope not. I need my atheism destroyed immediately. The return of Jesus is imminent. Every second counts here, Calvo. Anyway, back to Ed, who's good enough for now.
Welcome if you're new. Please, if you like this video, like and subscribe.
Fine, but only because you said the magic word. I don't actually really like it that much. I'm kind of lying by doing that a bit. It's like a little small white lie. Don't worry, it'll be fine.
My name is Eddie.
I thought your name was Ed. The channel's called Ed's Christian Channel. Oh man, I'm so confused.
And yeah, I'm just doing a series on atheism.
I appreciate your dedication to make it a whole series. Keep it up. I'm serious, we need more of this. YouTube's boring. It's getting kind of annoying to even find this kind of video at this point. But this is the good stuff. Random people talking uncut into a camera. That's what got me into this stuff in 2011. It's still around, obviously, but it's not thriving the way it used to be. So thank you for doing this, Ed. You're doing your small part to preserve a culture that I really love and want to see continue into the future. You know what? I changed my mind. I'm not lying when I like your video. I've thought about it and decided it's a sincere like, just for presentation style alone.
So today's video is called The Real Reason Atheists Reject God.
That's awesome. I love your choice of topic. It's one of my favorite ones. Man, this video's a winner. I can feel it. Not in the sense of views or anything. Nobody's gonna care about this. But in the sense of, something.
It's not science, it's stubbornness.
I mean, I agree that the usual reason atheists don't believe in God is not science. In my experience talking to atheists, it's quite uncommon that that comes up as the primary factor. The fact that your real answer is stubbornness, though, is just beautiful. It's caviar. I'm getting a treat today. By the way, it's nice to see a guy getting out of his room and his car to make a video. I also enjoy the outdoors, as you can see.
So, alright folks, gather round, gather round.
What? Are we restarting the video? Why are you reintroducing it? Oh, because that's the start of the script on your phone. And you wrote that in, but then decided that instead of reading the start of the script at the start of the video, you were gonna ramble about other stuff for a minute first, and therefore make it seem really weird when you finally start reading your script. Good forward planning, Ed. Seriously though, keep doing this stuff. This is the stuff I want to see. I don't actually care what you actually want to say. I'm all about style. The substance can just go fuck off.
Gather round, even though you're on the other side of a screen.
I am gathered as far around the screen as I can possibly get. The screen trembles in anticipation of what I might do to it.
Let's talk about atheism, not the polite, cardigan-wearing, tea-sipping kind.
Wait, is that a thing? Is that a stereotype of atheism? I like that way better than the fat Reddit fedora guy. I wonder if I fit this stereotype. I don't wear a cardigan, but I do wear a three-piece suit. I sip tea a lot. That's why I always have this wet spot on my mask. That and the fact that my nose runs a lot and I spit when I talk. And I'm extremely polite, notoriously polite to a fault. It's probably the thing I'm most known for. That's why I wear the classy hat. I won it in a tournament of manners back in Victorian people times. It was a close call. I went through the entire bracket easily because I was so polite. But of course, you know, you go up against a guy in the final, he's going to be pretty polite too. Unfortunately, he was kind of a dumb idiot, so I couldn't resist calling him a dumb idiot. And that lost me a couple of points. And I thought that was it, but then he slipped up and called me a stupid retarded nigger. And that was it. GG, well played. Good contestant though, very polite dude. Just couldn't help himself there at the end. In fairness, he was totally right, but I did have to kill him in a duel afterwards to revenge my honor.
I'm talking about the shouty online kind.
But what if it's polite cardigan-wearing tea-sipping online shouting?
You know, the ones who say, I don't believe in God because I'm rational, unlike your grandmother.
Oh, that's clever. I gotta write that one down.
But here's a wild idea. What if atheism isn't about intellect at all, but emotion and will?
What are we talking about here? Jonathan Haidt's Elephant and Rider? The idea that even the intellect is strongly controlled by emotion? Nah, I doubt that's where we're going. Not least because you said, what if it's not about intellect at all? Which, regardless of the elephant under the rider still represents rational intellectual thought. No, I suspect this is a lot more crude of an accusation.
What if people reject God, not because they can't believe, but because they won't?
So they reject God, and you equate that rejection to non-belief. You say, what if they reject God, not because they can't believe, but because they won't? Implying that you at least accept that regardless of whether they can't or won't, they at least don't. They genuinely do not see this thing as being likely true. In the one case, apparently driven by a willful choice not to see it that way, which actually succeeds and results in them actually not seeing it that way. And in the other case, not a matter of choice at all. So there are true non-believers. People don't just all believe in God, but the question is whether that genuine absence of belief is the result of an act of the will. Is that our starting point here, or am I taking you as speaking more precisely than you intend to?
So, atheism's PR versus reality. Now, let me be fair, some atheists are genuine seekers, but let's be honest, most rejection of God today isn't because someone's just read too many peer-reviewed papers.
Is that what a genuine seeker atheist is? One who's read too many peer-reviewed papers, whatever that means? I have to admit, this is a new concept for me. I'm learning things. Please continue.
It's more like, my prayers weren't answered, so God's not real.
Is it? Before you said that, you said, but let's be honest, it's this. But then you said a thing that it sounds like you just kind of made up. Or maybe that you just kind of feel must be the case. What's led you to this conclusion? What are you going off of?
Or, Christians are mean, so God must be imaginary.
Is that a thing at all? Let's be honest, this is what most atheism is. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like you're just not being honest. Or like you've never talked to an atheist. In which case you're not being honest when you pretend you have any idea what you're talking about.
Or, I don't like rules, especially the no sleeping around one.
Therefore God doesn't exist? Yeah, I don't see any reason to see any of this as reflective of the majority of atheists' primary reasons for not believing. I'm sure if you look around enough, you can find some examples of all of these. Of course, every group of people is going to have dummies who come to conclusions for not entirely coherent reasons. But you're saying this is most atheists when in the real world it seems like a vanishingly small minority. You say this as if it's some obvious fact, when it's the furthest thing from it.
Come on.
Never mind, I'm convinced. I mean, come on.
That's not science, that's a spiritual tantrum in a lab coat.
Having a spiritual tantrum in a lab coat sounds more like a thing John Pendleton would have done. But you say, that's not science. Yeah, I know. Did anyone say it was? Silly, dumb arguments aren't science. As a matter of fact, many arguments relating to the God topic and its potential truth and so on, including the not silly, dumb ones, are not really scientific, they're more philosophical. Nobody's dressing any of them up in a lab coat. Nobody's pretending they're scientific. You seem to have a weird idea from somewhere that any reason for atheism is either scientific or trying to appear scientific. I don't know where that's coming from. Maybe you just heard somewhere that atheists like science, and then decided, well, now I know where they're coming from, or pretending to come from, on literally every question.
So, emotional bias exposed.
Oh yeah, clearly, case closed. You ripped the mask off, totally exposed. If anyone questions you about this, it's obvious they're just mad about the sex stuff and dressing it up in a lab coat. It's nothing to do with you, Ed.
Paul says in Romans 1.
Oh, Romans 1. We had this in the last video, didn't we? I'm sure we did. I don't actually remember if we did, but I assume we did. It's damn near impossible that this doesn't come up in one of these videos.
They suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Not accidentally misplace it, suppress. Like holding a beach ball underwater, it takes effort.
Yeah, I've heard. You know, the fact that it's just this verse over and over and over gets so tedious. Like, yeah, I know Paul had opinions. I know it as well as I know anything. I've heard it like 500 times. I don't care about some guy thousands of years ago who said a bunch of crap about random people while he pushed his religion. There are countless people who've said the same thing about everyone, including you. It'd be hard to find something less important to bring up. And yeah, I know I'm responding to a video where you're just saying the same basic thing in different words, but at least the words are different. That makes it marginally more interesting. And then you have to go and tarnish that slight level of interestingness by tossing in the same old quote of the same old guy saying the same old thing. Look, if you want to say something, Ed, if you want to tell me your thoughts, just tell me.
It takes effort. Why? Because the truth is inconvenient.
To me, reading Paul, it's hard not to read it as if he just thought it was good marketing. With a lot of these other people, though, the followers, it has more of a vibe of just general cluelessness. It's hard to say for sure, it's just kind of the feeling I get. I get the whiff of that total confidence of the complete ignoramus.
Thomas Nagel, an atheist philosopher, literally said,
So we're about to see a general statement about atheists shown to be true by appealing to what a guy said. Specifically, in this case, a philosopher who most atheists have probably never read or even heard of. Why has he been selected out of all the possibilities of all the people who've ever said a thing? Well, because Ed likes this thing. It's a quote Ed's mined from somewhere that he feels confirms his biases. Nagel is an atheist, and therefore he must represent the typical atheist because atheists are a monolith. This, despite him famously writing a book called Mind and Cosmos, strongly questioning what he calls reductive materialism and its explanations of the mind, in the introduction of which he comes to the defense of intelligent design advocates, such as Stephen Meyer, Michael Behe, David Berlinski. My point with mentioning this is not to comment on Nagel himself or his ideas, or to argue against them, or to say that he's wrong about anything in particular. My point is just to bring him up as a representative of atheists in general, just as a class, really makes very little sense because atheists have vastly different opinions, and Nagel in particular is a guy who has many opinions that are really at odds philosophically with how a lot of the people watching my channel, for example, will think. What I'm questioning is the relevance of trying to reinforce some general claim about atheists and atheism by invoking something just he said. Of course, not that quote mines are relevant at the best of times. Even if this guy was the most philosophically average atheist imaginable, that of course doesn't make bringing up a quote from a guy any more useful. It's just a bit more obviously not useful when the guy's more of an outlier. Anyway, here's what Thomas Nagel said.
I want atheism to be true. It isn't just I don't believe in God. I hope there isn't a God.
Right, so let me give a bit more context to this. Nagel is a rationalist, and he's saying that people are resistant to this idea of rationalism, at least to some extent out of a fear of the world being a way that they already don't want it to be. He says, rationalism has always had a more religious flavor than empiricism. Even without God, the idea of a natural sympathy between the deepest truths of nature and the deepest layers of the human mind, which can be exploited to allow gradual development of a truer and truer conception of reality, makes us more at home in the universe than is secularly comfortable. The thought that the relation between mind and the world is something fundamental makes many people in this day and age nervous. I believe this is one manifestation of a fear of religion which has large and often pernicious consequences for modern intellectual life. In the following paragraph, he clarifies that he's not just talking about opposition to organized religion and the things that it does, or the superstition and the acceptance of falsehoods that are associated with it. He says, I am talking about something much deeper, namely the fear of religion itself. I speak from experience, being strongly subject to this fear myself. I want atheism to be true, and am made uneasy by the fact that some of the most intelligent and well-informed people I know are religious believers. It isn't just that I don't believe in God, and naturally hope that I'm right in my belief. It's that I hope there is no God. I don't want there to be a God. I don't want the universe to be like that. So he's basically talking about a bias. He's biased against certain types of ideas because of his emotional preferences, which is, of course, to some extent an opinion very in line with Ed's opinion. And I'm going to read the whole paragraph that follows that too, just to make it clear how atypical Thomas Nagel is in relation to, just to keep it relevant to this, atheists of my variety. Nagel says, my guess is that this cosmic authority problem is not a rare condition, and that it is responsible for much of the scientism and reductionism of our time. One of the tendencies it supports is the ludicrous overuse of evolutionary biology to explain everything about life, including everything about the human mind. Darwin enabled modern secular culture to heave a great collective sigh of relief by apparently providing a way to eliminate purpose, meaning, and design as fundamental features of the world. Instead, they become epiphenomena, generated incidentally by a process that can be entirely explained by the operation of the non-teleological laws of physics on the material of which we and our environments are all composed. There might still be thought to be a religious threat in the existence of the laws of physics themselves, and indeed the existence of anything at all, but it seems to be less alarming to most atheists. A bit later he says, "We are simply examples of mind, and presumably only one of countless possible, if not actual, rational species on this or other planets. But the existence of mind is certainly a datum for the construction of any world picture. At the very least, its possibility must be explained, and it seems hardly credible that its appearance should be a natural accident, like the fact that there are mammals." And then a bit later, "The feeling that I have called the fear of religion may extend far beyond the existence of a personal God, to include any cosmic order of which mind is an irreducible and non-accidental part. I suspect that there is a deep-seated aversion in the modern disenchanted Weltanschauung to any ultimate principles that are not dead, that is, devoid of any reference to the possibility of life or consciousness. Strong hints of panpsychist thinking here, and indeed, in Nagel's 1979 book Mortal Questions, he has an article called Panpsychism, in which he discusses panpsychism and kind of argues in its direction, but doesn't actually end up committing to it. But this specific work is basically what started the modern resurgence of panpsychism. Okay, again, I have no interest in arguing with Nagel here, or about panpsychism, or neutral monism, or whatever he would want to advocate. My point is just, this is not me. This guy's nothing like me. He doesn't speak for me. The context in which the quote mine that you've come up with to describe me and all other atheists is embedded might as well have been written by an alien. I see none of myself reflected in what Nagel was writing, including the words of the mind quote itself. But no, that guy doesn't believe in God, and neither do I, and therefore this quote has something to do with me. It's completely idiotic. Why would you think this means anything?
That's from The Last Word, Oxford Press.
Yeah, I didn't say what book it was from because he was about to. That's the book.
That's not logic, that's existential pouting.
What, Nagel's quote? I mean, it's not really either, actually. He's not pouting about anything, existential or otherwise. He's expressing a personal emotional bias, and therefore he's also not making some sort of logical argument, at least not right there and then.
Quick comic bit.
Quick comic bit. Is that the header of the next section? You're not supposed to read that part out loud.
So, you never meet someone who says, "There's no God because I stubbed my toe in church in 1998. Or the classic, "All religion is stupid because my Christian neighbour wouldn't lend me his lawnmower."
That's a classic? Like a classic joke? A classic quick comic bit? I've never heard that in my entire life. What ancient book of terrible jokes have you pulled this from?
That's not rational rejection. That's an emotional Yelp review of the divine.
Okay, but you said you never meet someone who does those things. Listen again, you never meet someone who...
You never meet someone who says, "There's no God because I stubbed my toe in church in 1998. Or the classic, "All religion is stupid because my Christian neighbour wouldn't lend me his lawnmower."
So if people don't seem to be doing that, if you never meet someone who's done that, it seems a bit pointless to comment on what type of reaction it is, since it's not a real one. These seem like quick comic bits that nobody's heard since Dad handed the funny papers to his silent generation kids to shut them up while he finished the real newspaper.
Ladies and gentlemen, the stats don't lie.
No, lies are 2 levels down from statistics, right under damned lies.
So, studies back this up. Barna research shows over 80% of ex-Christians left, not because of doctrine, but because of moral disagreement or bad church experiences.
Okay, so Barna Group is basically a polling firm for evangelical Christian organizations. Credibility level as far as, methodology and stuff, honestly, I don't know. Depends how accurate they want their information to be if they're going to use it internally, I guess. In any case, it's not going to be especially relevant here because I have no idea what polling you're talking about. To start with, you haven't even made it clear what the topic is exactly. You say Barna research shows over 80% of ex-Christians left because of moral disagreements or bad church experiences. Okay, left what? It could be that they stopped going to the church they were going to. It could be that they stopped going to church altogether. It could be that they stopped being Christians. It could be that they stopped being theists. You don't say. You just say they left something. Now, obviously, we could take it as implied by you saying ex-Christians that this is why they left Christianity. That would be a highly surprising and dubious sounding claim from the start, but maybe that's the claim. Now, of course, I would want to know something about the source of this claim before I even begin to take it seriously, but I can't find anything. I tried looking for stuff from Barna Research relating to this topic, saying anything like what you're saying, and I couldn't. I got a hold of a book that they sell called You Lost Me, which is chock full of their polling. This is their work, which is about why young people are disengaging, quote, from church and sometimes from Christianity altogether. Many young people who grew up in church and have since dropped out do not hesitate to place blame. They point point the finger, fairly or not, at the establishment. You lost me, which is about dropping out of church, not specifically dropping out of Christianity. In which case, leaving because of moral disagreements or bad church experiences would make a lot of sense. You're supposed to go to a place like that for the good feels. If you feel like it's morally disreputable or that you're not treated well, it's not really serving its function to you. But regardless, I didn't find the stat that you're talking about in this book. In fact, this book speaks in a much more nuanced way than what you do. You're talking in terms like over 80% of these people left for this reason. But in fact, more what it does is talk about the thinking of different groups of people on different questions, rather than pinning actions onto specific singular reasons. For example, this table of so-called prodigals, people who've left the faith entirely, which just asks whether people agree with certain statements such as, I had a negative experience in church or with Christians, without portraying agreement as the reason why that person left the church or the faith. Maybe this book has nothing to do with the data you're talking about. After all, it was published in 2011. It's a bit old now, but without you bothering to say where this statistic is coming from, it's the best I got, and it doesn't say what you said. It's one thing to claim the stats don't lie, although of course some stats are definitely lies, but it's quite another to say the stats don't lie, and then provide some unfindable statistic with no indication of where specifically it's from, other than of course Barna Group, and expect me to just take it as true. At that point, it's not the statistic that I'm accepting or rejecting, it's just your say-so, but I already know you lie.
A Pew Reports study found most atheists grew up in religious homes, but became disillusioned not after reason Nietzsche.
Not after reason Nietzsche?
Nietzsche. I can't pronounce that. Nietzsche. Nietzsche. I can't say it.
Nietzsche. So you have this in your script and you have no idea who you're even talking about. You didn't write this yourself. You're saying this like this is the first time you've even seen this name. You were surprised that it was there. You didn't know that in advance. So you're reading something someone else wrote, or something. The whole way through this, I got kind of that suspicion. I've been searching for little bits of your phrasing, and I haven't found anything. So it kind of makes me wonder if you've gone to ChatGPT and asked it to make some arguments for you. But it's hard to say exactly what you've done. But I guess there goes any credibility anyone might have ever thought you had. So the Pew study found most atheists grew up in religious homes, but became disillusioned not after reason Nietzsche. This is part of the same sentence, apparently. Nietzsche somehow got in there before the period, right after reason. Okay, what polling? You don't know. Why would I ask you? You have no idea if any of this is true, because you didn't come up with any of it yourself, or verify any of it, or read any of it before now. Damn it, Ed, I know you're having a relaxing park day, but put in some effort at least. Anyway, the closest thing to what you're talking about that I'm aware of is Pew's Faith in Flux from 2009, which is not about atheists specifically, it's about people who are unaffiliated. Only about 40% of both former Catholics and former Protestants say they became unaffiliated because they stopped believing in God or most of the religious teachings. Here's a table of the main reasons people gave for becoming unaffiliated, and these numbers don't total to 100 because people could provide more than one reason. 45% of former Catholics and 42% of former Protestants said it was because of changes in their religious and moral beliefs, of which the vast majority, 41 out of that 45% for Catholics and 40 out of the 42% for Protestants, said it was because they stopped believing in the religious teachings, and only 4 of those 45% of Catholics and 2 of those 42% of Protestants said it was because of a disagreement on a moral or a social teaching. And the only major category here specifically related to becoming disillusioned with the institution of the church, or the religion, is again religious institutions, practices, and people, which only covers 30% of the former Catholics and 25% of the former Protestants. The other categories are personal spirituality, which is about a change of mind that's nothing to do with disillusionment, life cycle changes, again, as mentioned, just general changes in your life circumstances, and other reasons, which are completely unspecified. This is about main reasons. They could pick more than one, but they didn't have to. And as such, it does total to more than 100 in both columns, but barely. The Catholic side totals to 109, and the Protestant side to 112. 100% of people in each column gave answers totaling to 109% and 112% respectively, which is almost 1 for 1. In other words, most people were just picking one option. And it's not that some people didn't answer, everybody answered because the ones who didn't answer would fall into the don't know/refused row. Point being that if someone chose one of those "I stopped believing it" options as their main reason, that was most likely the only main reason that they chose. They could have said that the disillusionment reasons were also reasons, but they didn't. There's also a table about general negative views of religion, which asks people which of these reasons were important reasons that they became unaffiliated. Note the word important is not the same as main. These are not the main reasons. This is why I went to Faith in Flux. I think this table might be what you're talking about. Just a guess based on the incredibly limited information you've given me. Now, again, from the main reasons table, we know that most of these people are not obviously atheists. No more than about 40% of them presented anything even close to becoming unconvinced of the existence of a god as their main reason for becoming unaffiliated. And that's the only hint we have as to whether any of them even became atheists. Plenty of people involved here would have simply changed religions. Now, is this what you're basing your claim on, or whoever you're reading from is basing their claim on? I don't know, maybe. It's the closest thing I know of that Pew's done. Maybe there's something else and I'm not seeing it, but this at least does not support anything you've said. And this is why, if you want to present a statistic, it's useful to tell people where the statistic is from, because otherwise it just ends up like this.
But after hypocrisy or pain.
What? Oh, that's supposed to be what Nietzsche said. Well, I don't think it is. I don't think that's a quote from Nietzsche, and I don't think you could point me to it if you tried. And also, so?
It's less, I discovered God doesn't exist, and more, I'm mad that life hurts and God didn't fix the way I wanted.
None of that seems based on anything real. Why is that, Ed?
Next point.
Buttery smooth Sigu. I can't pronounce that.
The will problem, in brackets, not a brain problem. There is a will problem, not a brain problem. Jesus says...
Do you remember that gaffe where Joe Biden read 4 more years, pause, off the teleprompter?
Imagine what we can do next. 4 more years, pause. 4 more years!
I don't know why I just thought of that. No reason, probably.
In John 7, verse 17, if anyone's will is to do God's will, he will know whether the teaching is from God. In other words, if you don't want God to be real, you'll find any excuse, even a bad one.
Okay, that doesn't seem to be what the verse you just read actually says. You're shoving a lot of words right in Jesus' mouth there. But yes, okay, Bible is Bible. I understand.
Like miracles can't happen because they never happen, because I said so.
A totally fair representation of your opponent's reasons for dismissing current miracle claims as evidence. You know, Ed, considering how much effort you seem to be putting into intentionally misunderstanding people who disagree with you, one might almost get the impression that this video isn't really about getting to the truth of the matter. Of course, I'm sure I'm horribly unfair to even think such a thing.
That's not logic, that's circular atheism.
Well, miracles never happen, therefore miracles never happen is circular. And I guess if someone based their atheism upon that, then their atheism would be based on a structure of circular reasoning. Calling it circular atheism is kind of a weird term, but I get what you're trying to say.
So, an atheist will say, I don't believe in fairy tales.
No, you told me an atheist would say, I don't believe in God, because I'm rational, unlike your grandmother.
But I'll say, mate, you believe everything came from nothing, by nothing, for no reason.
You're so desperate to avoid understanding what your opponents are saying. It's hilarious. I'm never unsubscribing.
And I'm the one with fairy tales.
This is getting uncomfortably close to the fairy tale chapter of A Conscious Universe. Don't start talking about heat cells now.
Atheists will say, I trust science.
Some will, sure. Christians say that sometimes too, you know.
Good. So do I.
Exactly, thank you.
Science tells us how, Christianity tells us why.
Okay.
And science can't tell you what love means or whether genocide is wrong.
So science doesn't provide answers to subjective questions. Questions about what feelings we like or how they feel or what they mean to us. Questions about which actions we like and which ones we despise. Okay, so does that bother you? And if so, so what? Does that have any bearing on the truth or untruth of anything? Feelings aren't a good basis for belief or lack thereof, right? That was the point of the section with the statistics.
What Jesus said.
I really don't care about this, but I guess go ahead if you really feel you got to get it out of your system.
Jesus knew people's hearts. That's why he didn't just say believe. He said, repent and believe, Mark 1:15.
What does that have to do with anything we've talked about up to this point?
Because believing in God isn't just intellectual, it's moral, it's surrender.
Well, no, the belief is intellectual. The moral surrendery part comes after that. That's a thing you can do on the basis of belief.
Atheists don't need more arguments, they need a new heart.
No, I need the arguments. I need them. I'm starving. Feed me, Edbert. Although if you have any spare hearts, I can use those.
If God is real, and he is, then your denial doesn't make him vanish, it just makes your rebellion louder.
Do you think that's what atheists actually think is going to happen? Like, they're aware that God is real, but they're denying that fact because they think that the all-powerful creator of the universe, apparently the foundation of all reality, is just going to vanish because they pretended they don't think he's there. That's the level of intelligence you're willing to grant your opposition.
God is not hiding.
I take it you don't accept the validity of the divine hiddenness argument? No non-resistant non-believers? Probably for the best, that would be troublesome. Best just deny that.
We are. He's not silent, we just don't like what he says.
Okay, where does he say it? The Bible? It's words on a page. I've read all kinds of those. How am I supposed to distinguish these words on a page as special? Especially when nothing indicates to me that they are. Oh, well, look right there. It says Jesus said this stuff, so obviously it's special. That's literally Jesus, bro.
And the greatest proof atheists reject God emotionally, they spend all day arguing with someone they claim doesn't exist.
No, you exist, Ed. I have never claimed that you don't exist. Isn't it interesting how often religious people confuse God with themselves? I wonder if there's something to that.
Closing challenge. So here's the truth.
Oh, I'm sure.
You don't have to be afraid of truth.
I know. That's why I'm responding to your untruth with truth, Ed.
You don't have to pretend it's about logic when it's about hurt.
Oh, by the way, another thing. You talked a lot about ex-Christians. That was who your made-up evidence was about. And I'm not an ex-Christian. So all of this, oh, it's clearly that you've been hurt by the church stuff, has nothing to do with me. It's really funny how far off the mark this video is, especially for me.
Jesus still says, come to me, not debate me, not impress me, just come.
Okay, well, I'm not debating Jesus, nor am I trying to impress him. Jesus isn't here. You are. Do you know the difference?
So that talk there obviously was a bit, not antagonistic, but like challenging or provoking.
No, it was pretty antagonistic, I have to say. Lies, misrepresentations, accusations. What else would that be?
Challenging or provoking? Just to provoke a response in you.
There's a word for that. It's trolling, which is antagonistic behavior. I mean, I'm not like butthurt about it. I'm glad you did it, obviously. This is a fun video, but it is what it is. Why pretend otherwise?
And yeah, it's not meant to, be offensive or anything like that, but...
Even the part where you told people you think they're so dumb that they think they can deny God out of existence, that wasn't meant to be offensive? The funny thing is you might actually not have even thought about that as being offensive. Sometimes the level of obliviousness is baffling.
Just to challenge the viewers' thinking, comment below if you feel challenged or if you think what I said was a load of baloney. I won't be offended.
Well, so people came and did that, just like you asked. And then you leave all these comments like, are you triggered? Why are you triggered? Did I trigger you? What am I supposed to take from that? Either you're mocking them because they responded to the antagonistic challenge, or it's kind of rubbing you the wrong way when they criticize you. Are there other options I'm not thinking of? Maybe. I don't know what they are. You tell me, I guess.
And yeah, I just, just end with the prayer. Just pray, Father, for the...
I'll skip the prayer part. Nothing to say about that, really.
And yeah, thank you for watching. God bless you. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, see you later, Ed. Good video, thank you for that. Before you go, do me a favor, subscribe, like. Enormous thanks to all of my supporters, and I'll see you next time.